Publishing is proud to introduce the art of Sandi Pillsbury. Before we see the beauty of Miss Pillsbury's work, the artist wishes to dedicate this project to her long-time mentor, Hazel Belvo, and the Grande Marie Art Colony. Both Hazel and the Grande Marie Art Colony, which is an art school on the north shore of Lake Superior, have been vitally instrumental in Miss Pillsbury's development as an artist in the past 30 plus years. Hazel has mentored Sandi since 1986, and throughout this time she has shared her deep appreciation, knowledge of painting, and more importantly her understanding of nature. She taught Sandi how to depict nature onto a two-dimensional surface and has continued to guide, support, and help with Sandi's growth as an artist. The Art Colony was founded in 1947, and Sandi continues to take visual art classes and is one of their biggest supporters and is also an admired guest instructor. She continues to align herself with the colony, believing in the impact and the institution that can have on the next generation of artists. So, with a deep appreciation of Hazel and the Art Colony, and without further ado, here is the work of Sandi Pillsbury.
Well, I've always liked to color, and I prided myself. I know that a lot of art teachers want you to color outside the lines, but when I was very, very young, I enjoyed getting right inside the lines and making my crayons really neat and tidy. And then when I was in 4th grade, my parents bought me a paint by number set, and then I was hooked. This is called Lake Superior Landscape, Spring and Castle Danger. This is a series of 4 paintings because I did all 4 seasons on my property. So that I have spring, summer, fall, and winter. We have a wonderful property. We have 330 feet of Lake Superior shoreline, which is unheard of for one property to have these days. So I go down there with my sketchbook, sometimes with a small canvas, and do plein air painting, which is French for painting in the outdoors. And I'll set up my easel right on the shoreline, and I'll do what I call a color study, just a small study. And then I bring that back to my studio, and then I get a larger canvas. This is 12 by 24, and I will paint a larger image. The reason I'm looking at the northeast in this particular image is because it has more deciduous trees. In other words, trees in the spring that bud out, they have that brilliant yummy yellow green that just barely is peeking out, and so for spring, that's what I wanted. I wanted those buds to come out. Now I'm going to show you looking to the southwest, which is summer in Castle Danger. The reason I chose looking to the southwest of my property is because there are more coniferous trees, in other words the evergreens, and so it lends itself better to summer. Lake Superior has so many moods. And you know, some of my friends, when I first moved up here, they said, "Oh, you're going to get bored. You know, you're going to want the cities. You're going to want, you know, the hustle and the bustle and all that." And I said, "I don't think so," because that lake changes by the hour. It changes by the day. It changes by the seasons, and there's no 2 days that are alike. We're looking to the northeast in this particular fall scene. And again, the reason for that is because I wanted fall color. I wanted the beauty of all of those. And I love fall. I just wish it goes too fast. Now we have winter in Castle Danger. Of course, the same full, long title that I have, Lake Superior Landscape, Winter in Castle Danger. And winters in Minnesota can be pretty brutal. You're looking at sunrise. A lot of people look at this and they think, "Oh, what a nice pretty sunset." No, it's sunrise because we're looking to the southwest, but a little bit of east, okay? So it is sunrise. It's early in the morning. The sun hasn't fully come up. And if you look along the horizon, right along here, those are frost clouds, or they call it ice smoke. And it's so beautiful to see that on the horizon on those really, really bitterly cold winter mornings. are sitting in my studio right now in my home, and I want to talk about one of my best paintings I've ever done. It's not here with us. It's very, very large, so I have to keep it in a storage unit at the present time. It is called the Emerald Glen, Ontario Wilderness. It measures 30 by 90, or possibly a little bit longer because it is a triptych. Each piece is framed separately, and if you want to, depends on, you know, whoever's displaying it, whoever owns it, how much they want to leave in between the individual panels. This was painted as a result of visiting a very remote island outside of Rossport in Ontario, Canada. A friend of my husband's and mine, his name is Ken, he owns the island. I actually painted this from the photographs I took, and both my husband David and Ken, after I completed the painting, they both remarked how this painting really captures the feeling of the place of the Emerald Glen. What it is, it's a opening in the boreal forest floor, and when the sunlight comes in and lights up all of that deep, rich moss that almost looks like fallen logs, but it's real thick moss. When the sunlight hits that, it looks like emeralds, and so hence the Emerald Glen. Now, really and truly, David and Ken said that they have tried capturing that. They're both really good photographers, and they couldn't do it. I did it with this painting. I'm very proud of this piece because it captures a really wild place up in Ontario, and people love it. They look at it, and whenever they see it, they just look again and again and again because there's so much to look at in this painting. This is entitled A Tribute to Janus and the flower Trillium. Janus was my brother-in-law, and even though I only knew him for about 4 or 5 years, we had a very strong connection. And his death from bone cancer really affected me profoundly. In fact, I was due to take a class up at the Grammar Art Colony, and I just told the family I wouldn't go. But they said, no, Janus would want you to go. So at the last minute, I didn't know what I was going to do. I thought, how on earth am I going to paint when I'm feeling such sorrow? But what I did is I just grabbed my 14 by 18 size canvases, which that's what this is. I grabbed my oil paint, and I also grabbed my alkyd paint, which is a synthetic oil that dries between 18 and 24 hours. And I took Janus's photographs of flowers with me. And so I went up there, and I had a different teacher, Elizabeth Erickson. She was also instrumental in my journey. And she said, well, why don't you paint the flowers? That would be very healing for you. So that's what I did. I started painting from Janus's photographs of flowers. He was a wonderful photographer, and in his pictures, there was this kind of dark, ominous background, and then the flowers were bathed in a beautiful light. And for me, it was kind of like death and resurrection. And it's so true of where I live here. You know, things die back in the fall and the winter, and then, in the spring, resurrection. I started out with his photographs. I moved to my own photographs, and then, of course, real life. This particular one is from real life. I did several sketches and watercolor studies, and then from a photograph I was able to get more detail. This, like the Emerald Glen, I painted the opposite color underneath, and so if you look closely at the green areas, you will see red peeking through, and on the flower itself, you'll look closely, and you'll see some lavender. Because I thought, okay, there's going to be kind of a creamy white that's going to go over it, so underneath I need to do the lavender. So this is a series that I envision ongoing because there's thousands of flowers out there, and they're just begging to be painted. Doing the tribute to Janus really inspired me to explore that venue of people who have passed, because I get so many emotions when friends and relatives pass. So what you're looking at now is another tribute of sorts, and I call this series Sky Clouds. This particular painting is for Joyce, and so it's Sky Clouds for Joyce. Joyce Gow was a pillar to our local art club, the Voyager Art Club, and I'm the president of that club currently. And Joyce wore every hat in that club. She was the president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. And she was so inspiring to me. And she was really, really tall. I think she was probably nearly 6 feet. And so she would always be looking down at me. I'd always be looking up at her. But she'd look down and she said, "Are you painting, dearie?" You know, she was just always making sure that I was painting. And she was just a wonderful human being. And so this is one of the first ones I did. And this is another series that will continue because unfortunately, that's life. You know, people do pass. But this is a wonderful way for me to grieve them. The painting that you're looking at now is a tribute to the late George Morrison. So it's Sky Clouds for George. And you might recognize that this is my shoreline, looking to the northeast again. And these were the colors that George loved to use. He was more of an abstract expressionist when he would paint the shoreline. Those people that live up here in northeastern Minnesota recognize the name George Morrison. He is an internationally known Ojibwe artist. I'm holding in my hand here one of my European series. What I do, I love to travel in Europe, and I love to travel in France particularly. So what I'm holding in my hand is a finished study, and what I do with the study, it's kind of hard to travel with oil paints, so I usually take along sketchbooks, watercolors, and that sort of thing, and of course my camera, and I do a lot of sketches, a lot of observing, and then I come home and I do a study that's a smaller size. So this is a finished piece, and this is the River Catarain. So this is the study, and then this is the larger painting that I am currently working on. As you can probably tell, it's not quite finished. So this is another series that I'm working on. I've been traveling to both Italy and France and England, and I want to go now to some of the Scandinavian countries. So this will be a series that will be ongoing. Now we're looking at another piece that I completed after I got home from Europe. I actually got to paint in Monet's gardens at Giverny, and that is a little town outside of Paris. I was sitting across the pond from his house. This is Monet's house, and this is his beautiful water feature that he has, lots of water lilies. It was a thrill to paint in Monet's gardens. He has been my hero ever since I was a little girl. And now I can cross that off my bucket list because that was something I have always wanted to do. I had to work really more impressionistic, just like Monet. You know, I had to be really quick with the brush strokes. And what was tricky for me is to do this in the studio, working from photographs and from my sketches. But I try to just do it very quickly, just like Monet would when he was painting in his garden. This painting I'm standing in front of now is from my favorite part of going over to Europe. This is southern Italy, Tuscany. And the light there is just amazing. What I tried to do in this painting is I tried to really capture the glow and the warmth of southern Tuscany.